Well, you're watching World News on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says Russia is now targeting logistic hubs and railways with strikes hitting Donetsk. In his nightly address, he noted that Ukraine's forces kept from striking Russian energy sites and urged the U.S. to continue advocating for restraint.
Overnight into Friday, there were indeed no strikes on energy facilities, almost none except for the Donetsk region, where there was a strike on gas infrastructure, a strike dropping aerial bombs. We are now seeing Russia reorient its strikes toward logistics, toward hub stations. In particular, a Ukrainian railways train was hit, as well as a special power station. America spoke about refraining from strikes on energy infrastructure for a week, and during the night leading into today, the countdown began. It depends on our partners, of course, on the United States, how all this proceeds. Ukraine is ready to refrain from carrying out strikes, as evidenced by today's lack of strikes on Russian energy facilities. Also today, the head of military intelligence, Oleg Ivashchenko, delivered a report. First and foremost about current Russian military plans and preparations. There, in Russia, they are not preparing for a transition to peacetime. They are preparing to continue assaults at the current level, exactly as is happening now. And we will pass this information to partners, and the only thing that they can change is the economic pressure on Russia.
Poland's Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski has called Russia's attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure a war crime. Speaking in Warsaw alongside his Luxembourg counterpart, Poland's chief diplomat said both countries firmly condemn Moscow's actions and stand united in supporting Ukraine.
During these meetings, Luxembourg always clearly shows that it upholds our shared values. We both know that Russia does not relent in its efforts to break the spirit of the Ukrainians, who are facing the consequences of Russian attacks on energy infrastructure as we speak. These acts constitute a war crime, and both of our countries categorically condemn such attacks.
Following reports that Russian forces used SpaceX's Starlink technology on drones used to strike Ukraine, Kiev's defense minister took to social media to thank the company's founder, Elon Musk, for swiftly addressing the issue.
I am grateful to SpaceX President Gwynne Shotwell and personally to Elon Musk for their swift response and for immediately beginning work on a solution. Elon Musk's decision to urgently activate Starlink and send the first batch of terminals to Ukraine at the outset of the full-scale invasion was critical to the resilience of our state.
Former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko appeared in Ukraine's Supreme Court on Friday as a collusion case against him continues. Judges also reviewed his lawsuit against current President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, challenging sanctions imposed against the former president.
Former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko appeared at the Ukrainian Supreme Court on Friday as his corruption case is ongoing. Mr. Poroshenko denied the charges against him and condemned the sanctions imposed on him by the Ukrainian government as illegal. Here is what the former president had to say during a break in the proceedings at his trial.
For a year, there has been an illegal, unconstitutional, extrajudicial regime restricting my rights as a citizen, my rights as a member of parliament, my rights as leader of the opposition. And after a year, the authorities have failed to provide a single piece of evidence. Today, President Zelenskyy is more concerned with the war than with the Holodomor or famine, which is being staged in Ukrainian cities, including Kiev. He is talking about choice, and so the main goal of these sanctions is to prevent his opponents, including me, from participating in the next elections.
Mr. Poroshenko denies all of the charges against him, and he was flanked by his supporters as he attended his trial at the Supreme Court. I'm Oz Katherji, reporting from Kiev for TVP World.
The European Union is preparing a new legislation to strengthen its industrial base and improve competitiveness. Alongside measures to boost production, Brussels is pushing to simplify regulations, a step officials say could cut costs and make it easier for companies to operate across the bloc.
Rising geopolitical tensions and trade disputes have reminded Brussels of the strategic importance of local production. Officials now hope that a new wave of EU legislation planned for the coming year will boost its competitiveness.
One of the most important legislative acts will be the so-called Industrial Accelerator Act. It is a set of tools designed to respond to the insufficient competitiveness of the European economy, strengthening Polish industry as well as industry across Europe.
The IAA aims to boost industrial production to at least 20% of the EU's gross added value by 2030, from 14.3% in 2020, according to a leaked draft document. Cutting through excessive red tape is equally critical, and the European Commission's cross-sector omnibus proposals are designed to address this.
These omnibus packages, or legislative simplifications, are absolutely key for Poland. They are what will unlock entrepreneurship, both in Poland and across Europe. We strongly support them, and we clearly see this reflected in the legislative work and proposals of the European Union and the European Commission.
According to the Commission, it will provide a €12 billion administrative cost reduction. Poland's energy giant Orlen is eagerly awaiting the reduction's impact on the energy sector.
We hope that this package will help to lower the cost of running energy business in Europe.
Orlen is also calling for changes to the EU's emissions trading system, which caps total emissions and allows companies trade credits to pollute.
Lower linear reduction factor so that allowances will be taken more slowly from the market, and it will be to adjust so-called MSR, mechanism for stabilizing prices, in order to provide additional allowances to the market when the situation is critical and when the prices go too high.
The European Commission is expected to take up the issue later this year. However, it signalled that the revision will primarily focus on the credit system post-2030, with tighter rules on granting allowances, a move, Błoński says, could pose significant risks for the sector.
The U.S. government has entered a partial shutdown after Congress failed to adopt the new spending package on time. Legislators in Washington hope to pass the bill early next week. The U.S. Congress failed to meet the deadline for a new spending package, letting funding for several federal departments run out. The shutdown affects the Department of Defense, the State Department, and the Department of Health and Human Services. Both Republicans and Democrats have signaled willingness to end the impasse as quickly as possible. This prompts experts to believe that the partial shutdown threatens only minimal damage to the economy and will likely be brief. That's in sharp contrast to the 2025 U.S. government shutdown, which lasted a record 43 days and cost the U.S. economy an estimated $11 billion.
ICE count me in. But if you don't get to the root cause of the problem...
The United States is being rocked by a wave of anti-ICE protests. Thousands of people took to the streets across the country to rally against President Donald Trump's aggressive immigration enforcement.
These are the people of Minneapolis, calling for help after 2 civilians were killed by immigration agents on the streets of their city. Thousands of people took to the streets across the whole of the country to protest Donald Trump's violent immigration forces.
They're tearing up families, communities, friends. It's just not right, and I don't understand why it's like even a thing, even when it comes to the way that they approach it, or even tearing up communities. It just really needs to stop ages ago, but here we are. And so I'm really excited that everyone's out here in the cold, but we really shouldn't be out here doing this, and it shouldn't have happened in the first place.
ICE agents stand accused of causing the deaths of multiple people in their custody or those who dared to confront them during their controversial operations.
It enraged me. It made me sick. It's not the first time that has happened in our country. It's been happening to people of color and brown and black people for centuries, but it enraged me, and I have to say it made me hope that it would wake people up further.
The American people are tired and worried for their friends and communities.
Well, I came out because I don't believe in summary executions of anyone. And I think our country is in a real point where we have to be on the streets and we have to speak out to abolish ICE and stand with our siblings.
Tensions are rising, deepening the gaping divide on immigration in the American society.
The acting president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, said she will push the country's parliament to work on a new amnesty bill and reform the Venezuelan justice system. She also announced the closure of the notorious El Helicoide prison in the capital, Caracas. The new amnesty bill proposed by Rodriguez could see hundreds of political prisoners released from the prison, including opposition members, journalists, and human rights activists. Relatives of some of the political prisoners held at the prison celebrated the news outside the facility. According to Foro Penal, a Venezuelan human rights organization, some 700 political prisoners are being held at the facility. The details of the proposed bill are still unclear, but according to Rodriguez, those sentenced between 1999 and today will be eligible for amnesty, except for prisoners booked for murder, serious abuses of human rights, and drug trafficking. U.S. President Donald Trump seems yet again to be seeking support for a Nobel Peace Prize nomination. Poland's parliamentary speaker says U.S. and Israeli officials are lobbying across Europe to back the effort. Kazimierz Wyszak reports.
Mr. Donald J. Trump, please.
U.S. President Donald Trump hasn't given up on his dream to receive a Nobel Peace Prize, this time for real, not just a medal from an actual winner. House Speaker Mike Johnson and the Speaker of the Israeli Parliament are now lobbying for support, including in Poland.
The Polish Parliament received correspondence from US House Speaker Mike Johnson and Speaker of the Knesset Amir Ohana concerning the support from the Polish Parliament Speaker for their efforts to award President Trump with a Nobel Peace Prize.
Speaker Czarzasty says he will present the Polish Parliament's official stance on Monday. He made that announcement while paying respects to Polish soldiers killed abroad, following Trump's comments on NATO allies avoiding action in Afghanistan.
You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that, and they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines.
What many call the US president's obsession with the Nobel Peace Prize comes in stark contrast to his domestic and foreign policies. The brutality of ICE agents in Minneapolis and the strikes on Venezuela, followed by a lack of regime change. He also created a new international organization called Board of Peace, with Belarus as one of the founding members, and an invitation extended to Russia.
With a country where the number of political prisoners is over 1,100. So a man facilitating war and a man at war with his own people is a very strange individual to be a member.
Trump's threats to take over Greenland, the autonomous territory of Denmark, have also been viewed as contradicting his Nobel Peace Prize aspirations. In this viral clip on the internet, Danes and Greenlanders are telling Trump, "You've brought us closer than ever before with your threats."
Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize!
Yes, Mr. President, you are a true peacemaker, because your threats have actually brought Denmark and Greenland closer together than ever.
President Trump also sent a letter to Norway criticizing the country's government for not awarding him the Peace Prize, even though it's awarded by an independent committee. According to the committee, its recipients contribute to fraternity between the nations and the abolition or reduction of standing armies, as well as the formation and spreading of peace congresses. For TVP World, Kazimierz Wyszak.
That's all for this World News Update, but stay right here with us on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.